Welcome back, one and all, to the teaching, today's teaching on Vipassana Sadhana practice. And we're in the midst of taking in your questions and listening to Rinpoche's advice and responses to them. So keep them coming, whether you're on Zoom or on YouTube, into the Q&A box or the chat box. And we'll try to get to them as much as we can. So continuing along, here's a question from Marco, who's in Singapore. Rinpoche, could you compassionately please provide some direct tips on living with the views that all sentient beings are Buddha and all appearances as Buddha field, while we're still on the path in this modern world?
Okay, this is again very complicated and big question.
Sorry to interrupt, Rinpoche, but you're sounding a little bit far away, like you're really in the mountains a little bit.
Okay, is it better? I think so. Should be.
Yeah, I think so too. Thanks.
Anyway, I was saying that this is a very big question, and this is, I guess this is a very related to the tantric teachings. So I can't really answer this properly here, I mean, short time, but I want to say something about it, which is, I think when we say seeing all as the Buddha and all the places as a Buddha field, there may be some kind of a notion that we need to somehow see everybody has a golden skin, Ushnisha, I don't know, like how the Buddha looks like on our shrine, you know, like bronze statues, and the Buddha filled with, I don't know, all the ancient imaginary pure realm with all the swimming pools and lotus pond and what else, like many the clouds and trees that talks and musical instruments and all that. And probably when people think about Buddha field, I guess that's how they think. But this is not that are very, I mean, many times, generally, all Buddhist tradition, and especially Mahayana and Vajrayana, they use a lot of symbolism. And when we use a symbol, we usually use first something that human beings can conceive and human beings can understand. Of course, you know, we don't know how to explain Buddha field to a frog, right? Or a spider. Probably the Buddha field for a spider may be, I don't know, something very, lot of webs and, but anyway, Buddha field, you know, for human beings, have Buddha field sort of has to be something good. And in our mind, a good place has to have a swimming pool. And I don't know, like musical instruments, lots and lots of food. And I guess some wild birds, peacocks. And there's a lot of that. So I just don't want you to think like that. And this is not only in the Vajrayana, even in the Mahayana, this is stated. If you have read Vimalakirti Sutra, right at the beginning, there is a interaction between some of the Buddha's disciples, such as Shariputra, who sort of made a comment about, you know, how, you know, I think it was right? I forgot now, where he doesn't see as a Buddha field. He only sees rocks and dust and so on. And Buddha said, well, that's because that's how you see. You are limited, narrow mind. But someone else can see as something different. So I think you need to understand this a little bit. Now, to come back to your main question, how to do that? There are few, again, this is very big. There are few, I think, quite important advice I could give you is, one, we need to get used to accepting that everything is our own perception. Everything. I'm not excluding anything. Everything. This is important, by the way. You know, even in our mundane world, we do say sometimes, this is your opinion. This is my opinion. This is my projection. But it's very limited usually. Actually, there's nothing that is not your opinion. There's nothing, not a single thing that is not your opinion. That's not a single thing that is not your projection. That's not your perception. Everything is. Accepting this fact is already quite a good climb towards understanding everything is a Buddha field. This we need to know. Then right now, whoever you are, you must be a human. So the one who's asking the question, I mean, so you and I, looking at this is a bottle of water, right? This bottle of water. Because we are human beings, so that's our perception. If we are fish or a frog, we have a different perception of this water. Once you can accept that, then it will create a room for you to understand why in the Tantra they say that water is actually a female, well, I guess you can, female Buddha, I guess you can say that, but Dakini, which is sun, actually, it's how, again, coming back to the Vipassana, this is the Tantric Vipassana. Tantric view about the world is like this. Their view of water is a Mamaki Dakini. Their view of fire is a Pandaravasi Dakini. Their view about earth is a Buddha Lochani Dakini. So everything is basically Dakini. So I guess this is how you, yeah. So I think the best way, the best beginning is to really accept that everything is your own projection. This is hard, by the way. This is hard. Especially it's hard when people begin to have a common projection, like earth is round. It can't be just my projection. You know, water is wet. You will drown in the water if you don't know how to swim. That's just not my opinion. That's just not my projection. That is real, right? So we do tend to forget that. Okay. Next question, please.
So this one is from a Zoom participant who asks, could you offer some practical advice on how to apply insight in our daily lives when the world we live in runs on principles opposite to this? How do we practice seeing without making judgments of others?
I didn't get entirely what do you mean by without making judgments of others. Actually, I just want to tease you a little bit here. I think in this case, you should make judgment. You should look at the world and really see they are wrong to think that things are permanent. They are wrong to think that things actually give satisfaction. This is entirely wrong. You know, I am right to see that nothing lasts. Things change. Things are uncertain. Things are dependent on cause and conditions. Remember, even a little bit of extra water in your coffee can ruin the entire relationship. This can happen. Nothing gives us satisfaction. I think now, anyway, I think more importantly, yes, you are right. Our system, the whole net that is designed, and more so, really is the opposite of Vipassana. You are right. I mean, wow, look at just the whole idea of insurance. I mean, that is one of the greatest lies, right? I mean, who can give us insurance? That is like us, daylight lie. But we all fall for it, because it's so, they are so beautifully designed. The insurance company leaflets are just amazing. Many times it has a sun rays. It works, you know. Just imagine insurance company leaflet has some sort of a dead leaf falling. Nobody is going to go to that company. It has like sun rays coming from like behind the cloud. Then it works. That's how easily manipulatable our mind is. I guess for us talking like this, time to time, I mean, even this 3 hours, I mean, I'm not saying that, you know, what I have to say is very liberating. Everything what I say comes from my teachers and the Buddha and the Bodhisattvas. I have no claim. Of course, I want to claim everything I've said is like originally coming from me, but I should be careful. I should not claim this, you know, and these discussion, even 3 hours of this discussion, poking hole into this picture that has been painted by the world as permanent. This will give you the satisfaction. This is it, you know, instead of anatta, this is the real deal. This is, you know, poking holes. I think it's important. It will give us some, you know, different angle. And I do not expect that if you are listening to the Vipassana first time, you will have a whole angle in one go, but at least, you know, you have been looking at the life maybe from just one angle, but maybe from today, another angle, 2 angle, 3 angle, and that's good. So this is why I was saying that even many masters have said that even discussing Vipassana, even reading about the Vipassana, one should consider this as a Vipassana Sadhana, Vipassana practice. I was trying to say that, you know, because many times when we say Vipassana practice, you immediately think in terms of sitting, being quiet, few hours, 9 days, whatever, a course, Vipassana course, right? You do it like once a year or twice a year. So good. Remember, like that, we say, which is good. I'm not stopping you to do it. But what I'm saying is that whatever discussing like this, poking ourselves some holes, that I shall consider as a Vipassana practice. Okay.
So this next one is, if meditation is with intention, isn't that a desire to try to achieve something? And is it not important for the mind to purge itself of all thought and not made empty?
Oh, yes, of course. Wishing to be enlightened is a desire. Wishing to not to suffer is a desire. Wishing to, this is a desire. It's a bit like this. If you are sick, you need to take medicine. So your question is a bit like, but why take medicine, right? Because if you are taking medicine, that means you are sick. You have to have a path. You have to have a path because you are supposedly, anyway, you are supposed to have this problem, and therefore you need a solution. And all solutions are actually problematic, including the wish to meditate. This is why at the end, in the teachings on the anatta, you have to transcend even the wish to be liberated, wish to meditate, wish to be doing the Vipassana. But we are talking much more, what do you call it, advanced level, I guess. Yeah. Actually, this desire to be liberated, desire to meditate, this desire is going to be the toughest challenge. Okay, so the question, whether we have many minds. No, we don't. But we will always feel that we have many minds, but we don't. Okay, the next question.
Okay, so this one, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, good. So this one is from a YouTube friend who says,
read this.
I have cultivated for some time, but when I'm faced with some incidences, I still feel that my mind is not strong enough. I still want to return to the comfort zone. What can I do?
This is not just, I think the question is, I have cultivated for some time, but when faced with some incidents, I still feel that my mind is not strong enough. Well, this is something that you will have to go through. I think maybe, not to expect too much from yourself right away from the beginning. Dealing with the mind, bhavana, the training mind, is in one way, easy. But because the progress is sort of invisible, because it's so mental, And we are so used to judge and measure that are tangible and that are obvious, that are visible. Sometimes we get impatient. So I think tendency is to get really frustrated. So even if you poke yourself with all the questions based on anicca, dukkha, anatta, shunyata, Buddha nature, even a little bit, let's say once a week, that is already doing its job, so to speak. So I think you need to really learn to, on the one hand, be satisfied with that. On the other hand, try to do more of that. Okay.
Thank you, Rinpoche. So
almost finished, no? If they can hear, doesn't matter.
Yeah, is it okay? I'll
no
continue
problem.
with the next question. Rinpoche,
Just
is
show
it
me
okay?
that question. Okay, so the next question.
Yeah, so this one is,
How can I get rid of
rid
bad habits
of
such
bad
as switching the iPhone all the time?
Exactly.
How about take a vow that every time you look at the phone, let's say in a day, at least 10 times the phone will remind you Vipassana, at least 10 times. Then you should really try to pick up your phone as many times as possible, because there's a good chance that it will remind you. Okay.
Thank you. That's a good one. I will practice that. So this one from Jasmine, who's joining us from Zoom, with regards to past traumas, she says, and self-identification of being forever damaged by trauma and subsequent searching of fixing. How can we incorporate the method of Vipassana into our conversations to not only console and comfort such people, but to also help to push our friends to have the confidence to take the bird's eye view?
Okay. Past traumas. I don't know so much about psychology. I think it is good to get help from experts who really have put so much effort in learning past trauma, childhood. Definitely, they play a big role in our life. I think in the modern psychology studies, when they talk about the past trauma, childhood trauma, past trauma, I think the furthest they can go is like childhood trauma with your father, with your mother, I don't know, siblings, bullies. That's it. But I think in Buddhism, past trauma goes even further, because in Buddhism, we talk about past life. So many times, the residue of the trauma or the habitual patterns that we have collected in our past life have a very important role in influencing the psychological state in this life. And that's very, very complicated. But we have noticed this. Many times we have children who are raised perfectly, I mean, perfect in the worldly, whatever, by the book. There are a lot of young parents who raise their children according to the book. They put so much effort. I know personally. I mean, they go from A to Z, whatever is supposedly prescribed or whatever. And then, but then some, unspeakable, unthinkable, psychological, since we are talking more about the psychological issues, like a lack of self-esteem, lack of confidence, or totally feeling alienated. I mean, I think, raising children, it's a very, very difficult, because this is a being. It's not really like, you don't have 100% control. Even though you try your best, this being has all the history, so to speak, cause and conditions that is not just, like early childhood, but we are talking about the past life. So they have all these amazing, unbelievable trait, unbelievable minds. I don't know, mental factor, something that even the parents don't have. This, the environment doesn't have, but they have this. And I have actually witnessed myself, a lot of children, especially as they grow up, they have this, and then plus with that, and now the 21st century world, now this is not making life easy. And you bring the children, just step out of your house, and there's all the world waiting for the child. I mean, waiting to make them, I don't know, like make them want this, need this, or get scared, or get alienated. But coming back to Vipassana, since we are talking about a Vipassana, if us parents, adults, grown-ups, if we gain some confidence in things like anicca, impermanence, uncertainty, cause and condition, nothing will really gives us complete 100% satisfaction. If we have a, not necessarily total realization, but a quite good, even on the intellectual level of comprehension, I think we will not be too hard on ourselves, because I think the many parents are so afraid of sort of a failure. And this failure is sort of in reference to some books written by somebody or a society's sort of expectations, right? And again, I'm repeating this, having bird's eye view Vipassana definitely will make it little bit, I think the parents may feel more at ease, so to speak. And when the parents are maybe more at ease, it may create a very good space for the children to also, I don't know, not be too paranoid, too anxious, not to be too competitive. But yes, these are real challenges of our time. And it's not going to get better, looks like. But the good news is the information is also there, information to heal this, sort these things out. It's just that, as I've been saying right from the beginning, information on Vipassana is not there enough. There should be more of this. Okay.
So this next one is about negative thoughts. What can I do if I can't control my negative thoughts?
This is a very I think this has a lot of answers for this. And I don't know where this question is coming from. I mean, I will say this. If you think that you have lots of negative thoughts, that is already worthy of celebration. Because that's quite difficult, Most of the time, we don't even know there's negative thoughts. Most of the negative thoughts that we have come and go unnoticed. And many times, even if they are negative thoughts, we think they are positive thoughts, because we are just so used to sort of deceive ourselves. So if you have reached to a level where, if you think that these are negative thoughts, that's really good. That's actually sign of you doing some sort of a vipassana, because you are looking from a certain angle. Hey, this is a negative thought. Now, if that is the case, then my answer is not to be too judgmental towards this. Yes, it's a negative thought, but don't condemn yourself. Don't beat yourself. Just acknowledge, acknowledge, acknowledge. This is actually what they do during the 9 days. I hope they do that. When they have thoughts, what they are supposed to do is they do not beat themselves up. They just watch and watch and watch. And by doing that, it has several, actually infinite amount of benefit. One, usually when the negative thought comes, if you condemn it, if you beat yourself, if you condemn, if you judge, then it's like recharging these negative thoughts. They want you to do that. It's like, yeah, that they want you to do that. They want you to almost condemn. But if you don't do anything, just watch, then it really drains their battery. If you are condemning yourself, and if you're judging, you are charging them. So that's one. That's one. What do you call it? Impact. The other impact, if you keep on doing like that, you will see very more and more. Let's choose one negative thought, which is, let's say, anger. Let's say anger. Okay, anger is at glance, generally, anger is something really bad. It's a hate, anger is really. But then anger comes, you watch. As I said, initially, battery running out. So, second stage, when the anger comes, the very character of the anger has assertiveness. Now, this is more like a tantric teaching, by the way. Assertive or firmness, assertiveness, which is also very connected to clarity. Sort of not dull, not like sleepy. It's like very precise, very clear. Now, then you are beginning to use the so-called negative emotion, anger, into something useful. So then you are beginning to learn to recycle, so to speak, almost like recycle the garbage into something beneficial. And then there's many, many more, but I think this is good enough for now.
I've heard an expression, I've heard an expression they call transmuting the emotion. I'm thinking of that. It's a bit like what you're saying, the recycling. Okay, so this one is, I'm just aware of the time. And do we have time for this last question here, Rinpoche? As we learn to benefit other sentient beings, some feelings arise, some feelings of being scared of some sentient beings, knowing that with these arisen feelings, I cannot fully benefit other sentient beings. How can I overcome this?
I think all the more you should try to benefit sentient beings, I would say. Because yes, sentient beings, many sentient beings are scared of many other sentient beings. And this is the very reason why you should be even more generate the wish to help others. And if you can, even engage in the activity of helping others. Okay, so is this the last question?
Well, I do have another one if we have time for it.
Okay.
All right. So this one, you have explained, Rinpoche, that thoughts are not our enemies. But in the enlightened state, are there thoughts? Do Buddhas and Bodhisattvas have thoughts? That's the first part. Actually, there's a second part too. Maybe I'll make a pause here to make
it. This is quite a difficult question. But anyway, Buddhas and Bodhisattvas don't have thoughts. Okay, just first, I want to just say that. First of all, we need to come to a mutual agreement, what we mean by thoughts, what we mean by mind. So, but I think that will take a long time. So I don't think we'll finish with this. But I think generally, when we talk about, when I, a Buddhist, when we talk about mind, when I talk about thoughts, I'm talking about duality, dualistic thoughts. All thoughts are dualistic. So dualistic thoughts have this tendency. Dualistic thoughts are a bit like a honey. you know, it has a glue. It, you know, it's kind of sweet and nice, but it, you know, it has a gluey kind of character. Wherever honey goes, so to speak, spills, it, you know, it makes you sticky with whatever, wherever it is. So thoughts are like that. Actually, okay, I have a better, I just suddenly remember a better example, which is actually coming from tantric masters. So I will quote them. Anyway, they say the thoughts are like a water. Water, when you spill, it collects immediately the dust. It's a subjective and objective. Bodhisattva is a bit too big. We don't even know what, I mean, they are very, very, you know, like a kindergarten level of the bodhisattvas, which are basically sentient beings. But let's say Buddhas. Now, Buddhas don't have this kind of mind, like a water, like a mind. They have what they call wisdom, prajna, jhana, which is like a mercury. Mercury, when it falls on the ground, it doesn't collect anything. It fits. You can mix a mercury with a dirt for 1,000 years. It stays as a mercury, intact, without being stained. So, but then I guess the next question is, what's the difference between the mind and the wisdom and so on and so forth? I think this really opens a very, very big subject, probably another time. Okay.
There's a second part to the question. Would it be possible to go on? Or?
Yes, for now, we have no choice. We can only begin with a motivation. We can only do with a longing to do it. But, and I was addressing more to the, you know, younger generation, busy people who don't have much time to sit, who don't have wish to sit. For them to have a glimpse of Vipassana, I was suggesting to contemplate, to discuss, to analyze. And I was saying that this can also be considered as a Vipassana practice. But of course, once your Vipassana gets matured, all these subjective, objective, analytical has to go, has to transcend. This is why in the Heart Sutra, gate paragate parasamgate bodhisattva, you have to go transcend, you have to go beyond. Okay, I think on this note, we will end this time. So, yes. Thank you for coming to this, for a lot of you, for this weekend. I hope that the current situation of the world is going to become more, I don't know, less uncertain. I don't know. Now that we have talked a lot about anicca, it's even kind of silly to even think like that. But meanwhile, please take care of yourself. And since I'm addressing to a lot of our Buddhist Sangha here, and I'm noticing that many of the people who have attended here have been somehow connected to me for a long time. I just want to take this opportunity to say a few words about this recent, this, unfortunate loss of Chapji Dujam Rinpoche's incarnation. I think this is such a big loss because, he's not only he was very bright and very accomplished for his age. We generally, I think all the Buddha Dharma, or the Buddhist tradition, and especially in the Vajrayana, there is, dire situation of lack of next generation sort of lineage holder. And there was a lot of hope and expectation on him. So his sudden passing was a shock for a lot of people, and it's such a big loss. So while of course we pray and as we offer our aspiration for the continuous and unstoppable compassion and activity of Buddhas and Bodhisattvas to manifest and support support and guide us continuously. I also like to sort of tell that, obstacles, as much as it can be very discouraging and it can be very disheartening, I think this is also the time to, regroup ourselves, especially those who are connected to this particular tradition and the lineage. Regroup and tell each other and remind each other that now is actually the time to be more brave, courageous, visionary, and develop this attitude of never ever giving up. Of course, when Buddha Dharma when Buddha Dharma prevails, it also obviously will have a lot of obstacles. And when the obstacle comes, we need to actually generate our determination even more so. So generally for everyone, and especially for those who are connected to Dujam lineage, I'd like to take this opportunity, because I'm speaking to a public situation here, to pass this message around, to not to lose our hope and be even more determined and more visionary and think much longer and bigger. Okay.